All right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another day of SaberSim's DFS office hours. Today is Tuesday, February 18th of 2025. I'm looking ahead here. One more day of the NBA All-Star break. NBA will be back tomorrow with a single game showdown. So that'll be fun. We still have tennis and esports going on, specifically League of Legends. Not sure if we have any CS2 action, but hope you guys are enjoying the little break here before we get rolling with the second half of the NBA season on Thursday. So for those of you who are new here, welcome. My name is Andrew, one of the coaches over here at SaberSim. This is a show where we go over how to use the SaberSim app, answer any and all DFS related questions, get your questions in one of three ways here. First off, send us an email, support@sabersim.com. Second, post it live in the YouTube chat. Third way, post it in the office hours channel in our Discord server. If you're not in our Discord and want to get access to that channel, there is a link in the description of this video. You also get access to our similar channels, individual sport channels, and you get access to the rest of the SaberSim team. Just can't say enough good things about the Discord. But with that said, we do this show Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, and then we do the show on Saturdays at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. So tune in any one of those days, get your questions answered. Let's get SaberSim up here. We did have a little bit of a continuation, kind of. We were talking about some PGA stuff yesterday, and there was some more discussion kind of around PGA weather and how the model accounts for it and things like that. So just wanted to start off talking about that, and then we can answer any more questions that are coming in live, etc. here. So I'm going to jump back to last Thursday, which was the last PGA slate here. So PGA weather, okay? I know a lot of people talk about like weather splits, right? So like if you come in the app and then we have like this tee time column, right? You can like sort by it. So these are the latest tee times on this tournament, which would be 11:31 a.m. This was Pacific Standard Time. And then the earliest tee times would have been 9:30 a.m., right? This may not be like the best example. Let's see if we can go like one more tournament back. So let's go to PGA Tour from the 6th to find tee times. Okay, 1:50 p.m. And then the earliest was like 7:20. So this one will probably have like a pretty decent split, okay? A big gap here. So right here, there's like the morning wave, we would call it, is like 7:20 a.m. to 9:10 a.m. So almost like a 2-hour window. Golfers are teeing off about half the field, right? And then they take like a 3-hour break. And then the second group of golfers, like the other half, tee off all within like a 2-hour period, right? So you have like 2 hours of golfers, you have a 3-hour break, and then you have 2 hours of golfers, okay? This is what people refer to as a weather split, okay? Now, our PGA model takes into account weather on a daily basis, okay? Going into the week, we have a weather forecast for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That gets worked into the model, okay? Some people try to be more granular than a daily basis. They try and look at the weather hour by hour and try to get an edge within this 3-hour window, okay? So like, hey, we have this 3-hour break. How is the weather in the morning as opposed to the afternoon, right? So this is like going one step further with your analysis, right? Somebody who does this really well, always provides a summary, is Kevin Roth. You can check out his weather dashboard. Also does it for all sports, right? NFL, MLB. I saw him doing some NASCAR weather this last weekend for Daytona with like the rain that was going on, right? So he works over at Roto Grinders. They have a free weather dashboard. You can check it out. But he, is a meteorologist, tries to go further and like, hey, what if we look hour by hour? Are there differences in the wind from 7 a.m. to, 12 p.m., right? Wind changes from, 5-hour difference, right? So that's what we're kind of talking about here. Our model is daily, okay? Now, then we talked about how it kind of gets factored in, right? So our model is not directly factoring in hour by hour weather. However, we are factoring in Vegas odds, okay? So if Vegas odds. If people, bettors are betting the weather splits, and whether that be odds to win the tournament, head-to-head odds between golfers, right? I'm like pretty sure all that gets taken into account. Top 5 odds, right? Top 3 odds, all those kind of things, right? Like we're taking into account like the whole landscape there. Well, if bettors are accounting for the weather edges, then that's going to be reflected in the odds that the bookmakers provide, because they're going to move the lines as money is coming in on each side, and then that gets factored into the model, right? Because we're using the odds. So that is an indirect way of accounting for weather splits. Not a direct way, right? So if you did want to account directly for weather splits, the best way to do it, in my opinion, is probably to use groups. Okay. So then let's say that, the golfers in the morning have have less wind, and then the wind picks up in the afternoon, and it's going to affect the accuracy of the golfers in the afternoon, right? So that means that they would be a little bit worse to roster. Okay. Well, in the example here, what I would probably do is go to my rules. I would go to add new rule, and then I would tell the builder, there are 6 golfers in a PGA lineup. So then I would want to favor the morning golfers. And the way I can favor them is saying, hey, I want more of the morning golfers in my lineup. So now that I have the use at least 4 set up, I can go down to this requirements section, add a requirement, and then I could say, we're going to make sure these 4 golfers have a tee time before, and then we're going to say, I'm going to put like 11:30, right? 11:30 a.m. So this will make sure what it's going to do is basically create a big group of all the golfers before 11:30 a.m. And it's going to say use at least 4 of them in every lineup. Okay. And then I click save. I could save it as auto. I could save it as manual to like show you guys this, and then open it up. And then now it's went and grabbed all of the 66 golfers who are before the time slot I input, and it's saying use at least 4 of them. So that is probably the easiest way to account for weather splits in SaberSim. You could do a different way. The only other way I could think of is if you went in here and gave like a small projection boost to every golfer before this time slot, right? So like you can come in here and say, maybe I want to give every golfer, half a point to 1 point higher projection within this window. That doesn't guarantee you'll get, more of them. It means you probably will, but like a lineup could still have, 3, 4, 5 players from the afternoon window, right? So that's a little bit more hands off, but it is something you could do, right? And honestly, the easiest way to do it, in my opinion, would probably be download the CSV, open it up, and then go to tee times. Well, first add filters to the top row. Go to tee times. Where to find that? Tee time. And then you would basically sort it high to low, right? So this would be like the 150 that we talked about. And then the 12 o'clock is like right here. So this is the last 12 o'clock golfer, or the first. And then for every golfer under them, I would find the projection, which is K. And then, so I need to start at row 68. And like, this way is like a lot more complicated, right? But what I can do is like equal the projection plus say 0.5. And then I can just drag this down. And we won't do the 0. So then now I effectively have new projections. What I can do here is copy over the other ones. And just say that. Copy over the header. I'm going to get rid of K. Delete. And then now I've updated K, right? With all the golfers Oops, I couldn't do that. Okay, so I actually have to leave K, but I'm going to change the name here to like my proj old. And I could even name this like my proj new. Okay, these are updated. Click save again. Cool. So like my new updated projections, right? Then I go to upload. I go and grab that CSV. And then we scroll over. We got to make sure the right one. So see this, it's on the old one for projection. So I'm going to turn that off. And then I'm going to go to the new one for projection. I don't need to modify ownership or anything like that. And then nothing else is selected. Minimax exposure is fine. Click save. And then now, right, all of, wait, what happened here? Okay, I must have messed something up. What did I do? Oh, I think I did value by accident. My bad. Okay, let's try this again. One more time. Upload. Golf. Off. Oh, that's what I did. It skipped it. My proj new projection. Okay, that's right. Okay, save. And then when we go back to tea times, all the afternoon are the same. And then all the morning are a half point higher. So this is actually exactly what I was trying to do the first time. So that's another way you could do it, right? Those are probably the two ways I could think about accounting for weather splits in PGA. So first way is a little bit easier. Second way is a little bit more complicated. But both, I'm sure, you know, somebody will find some usefulness for one or the other. So think about those. All right, next question. Do you guys no longer do college basketball projections and builds? Thanks for the help. We've never done college basketball. As far as I understand, we do not have a college basketball model at this time. If we create one, it will definitely be for the first time. All right. James said, is there a projection value you would recommend for applying a filter for NBA slates to boost overall projection for the pool, similar to filtering for ROI greater than 0? Good question. You know, for like classic NBA, I think it's fine to curate your player pool, you know, if that's what you want to do, right? What I always kind of recommend here is sorting by the column you're considering filtering by, and then basically like picking a number. Maybe I want to say I don't want to play players under 4 value, right? We'll just make one up. So show players with value greater than 4. Then what I would do is I would scroll down to where the filter cuts off, you know, with a check mark, no check mark, and like actually look at the players here that you're excluding and make sure you're comfortable excluding those players. So this allows you to be like certain that you want to do this, right? Like, hey, you know, do I want to exclude Aaron Neesmith, Shaden Sharp? You know, those are like the highest projected guys in this range. Like 4 seems like a fine number. Max Christie, you know, or do I want to include them, right? Or like look at the players above. Do I want to play the other players that I'm seeing, right? Like maybe I don't want to play, you know, Hauser, Dinwiddie, Henderson, right? All those guys. Like maybe I don't care for them. You know, okay, I can actually raise this, right? I can go to 4.25 value, right? Another like good indication I would probably say is the ownership projections, right? Like how likely are these players to be rostered in the first place, right? You know, getting rid of all these guys with 0.1 ownership, probably not a bad idea, right? But if you're seeing like, hey, you're cutting it off and you're getting rid of players with, you know, 10% ownership, 20% ownership, well, maybe you're going like a little too far and you need to rethink where your cutoff point would be. So there's never going to be like a hard and fast rule because, what if it's 2-game slate? What if it's 3-game slate? What if it's 10-game slate, right? You can't take like the same number into all of those, but this is basically like the process I would go through to figure out where I want to make the cutoff. And then maybe if you play like enough slates, right? Like, hey, for 3 games and under, I'm going to use this number because it always comes up. For, 4 to 8 games, I'm going to use this number. For 8 or more games, I'm going to use this number, right? I think you could probably find like some trends like that if you do it, over and over again. And then, that way you don't have to go through the exercise every time. Kind of like the way I talk about using min uniques, where I just like scale it. Like for my 150, I use 3. For my 20, I use 4. For my 3 max, I use 5, right? You could probably do something similar here where it's like, hey, 3-game slates, 2-game slates, I use this one. 4, 5, 6, 7, I use this one. 8, 9, 10, 11, I use this one, right? I think you could probably do that over, not a very long sample and like figure out where you want to have those baselines. And maybe they just end up being like check boxes in your process, right? Like, okay, how many games? Okay, set my value filter to this. How many games? Go set my value filters to that, right? So that's what I would consider here. All right. James said, any other filters or rules you recommend for NBA Classic or Showdown slates? I would actually say, like, for Showdown, I would definitely not put any filters. Basically, the way I think about it is the less games on the slate, the less restrictive I want to be, because weird things can happen when there's less games on the slate, and I want the sim to be able to account for those things in my lineups. But the more games on the slate, the less weird you need to get, and you could probably be safer to apply some filters or rules, because even if some random player has like an outlier performance, if they're 0% owned, 1% owned, and they did pretty good, you could still like overcome that since there's so many viable options on the slate. So that's why, as the slate gets bigger, you don't need to, worry so much about that. But like when there's 2 games on the slate and, 5% owned player goes off, like chances are you probably need them to win, unfortunately. Right. So those are like the ways I would think about it. I don't have any that I use. I would put on like a projection greater than like 10 filter on like classic slates, mostly just to like guard against players who like might not even get in the game, or who play, have very capped upside because their minutes are so low. Players are playing single digit minutes, chances are they're just most likely not going to score enough points or get enough opportunities to, be a good enough value, like to be in a winning lineup. So that's why I do that, just so I don't have to look at these guys and, all their ownership 0.01, 0.05, 0.13. I'm like, yeah, I could probably do without these players, and I don't think I'm going to need them to win, right? So that's all I do. I don't do anything else. Something people do generally that I'll see like our users do or mention is a common heuristic in NBA of use no more than 3 players grouped by team. And the idea comes from that there are only so many fantasy points to go around in a game. And if one person's shooting the ball, that means somebody else isn't. It's not like MLB where, if one player gets a hit, well, that's actually an additional at bat for another player in their lineup. And every additional hit is 1/9 additional at bats for every other player on the team, including themselves. So you get like a, stacking effect, right? That's why correlation is so important in MLB, because every time somebody gets on base, it's additional at bats for the team. Well, NBA is not like that, right? Unless you get overtime, but there's never going to be like additional minutes in like an NBA game otherwise, right? So people will put a rule like this on. I think it's like generally fine. I don't use it. What I recommend doing is, if you're going to use that rule, right, come in here to value, sort by value, and then look at who the highest value players are, right? And if you're seeing certain teams, then I would, consider not using it for that team or turning it off completely, right? So Golden State, great example here. we see 4 of the top 5 values are all Golden State players. First, I would ask why, right? And then I would go, the way I would answer that is by going to Golden State, filtering by projection and scrolling down here, and then seeing what players are out. So it looks like this was when Dennis Schroeder got traded, Kyle Anderson got traded, Andrew Wiggins got traded, Kuminga's out, Gui Santos is out, and then it's Steph, Draymond, and then you can see the salaries, right? Podziemski starting 4,400, Buddy Hield starting 4,200, Quentin Post starting 3,800. This isn't a result of injury; it's a result of 6,200 Kuminga's out, 6,800 Wiggins just got traded, right? So then now it puts some other players at lower salaries into these 31-minute positions, 28-minute positions, right? So this is more a result of like the trade deadline around this time. But try and make it make sense. And then let's say you did a rule like that, right? You have a rule. Let's get rid of all these. You have a group auto rule that says, use no more than 3 group by team. Well, what I would do is, okay, maybe I want to use this rule for everybody except Golden State, right? Okay, then I would save it as a manual rule. I would click save. It's going to save it for each team. Click this drop down. I would go down to Golden State, and then I would just alter it for this team. I would say, hey, use no more than 4. Maybe I'm okay using 4 players from Golden State. One thing here, right? If I click save and I go and look at it again, it's not going to update the name of the rule, right? So you do, but the logic here has changed. So then I would just update the name too. That way, when I'm scrolling through here, I can see the 4, and it makes me like more comfortable that I know that it's 4, right? So that's one thing I would do there, and then you would be all set. So consider that when using those type of rules, being flexible with them, and then making sure you're not basically blocking yourself from high value plays because you have this like rule that you're just setting and forgetting, right? So that's what I would consider there. But all right. Looks like we're all caught up here with questions in the Office Hours channel and the Discord. Reminder, NBA is back tomorrow with a single showdown. We'll probably do a showdown demo. Projections should be up in the morning. You guys want to play that? Start building lineups early for that Lakers-Charlotte showdown to kick off the second half of the season. Excited about it myself. So appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern for our next show. So until then, everybody, take care. Good luck. Thanks. Bye.